Senegal and Morocco produced an incredibly emotional and intense match in the final of the Africa Cup of Nations. Today, we will focus on the tactical aspects of this game and, of course, also discuss the refereeing decisions. Morocco defended in a 4-1-4-1 structure and generally applied high pressing only in specific situations and patterns. The moments when Morocco tried to press with maximum intensity were almost always from set-piece situations. Goal kicks by Senegal. Here we can see how Morocco set up. It is immediately clear which side they want to orient their press toward. Their positioning clearly shows this intention, and they start sprinting aggressively toward the Senegal players. During Senegal's build-up, one of the half-space central midfielders drops deeper to form a double pivot in the defensive midfield zone. Morocco then has two players who are tasked with marking these Senegal players man-to-man. In this situation, Morocco could have played much tighter and more aggressively against these players. But even despite that, we can see how quickly the Moroccan players react, and suddenly the Senegal player on the ball has very few passing options. Morocco did an excellent job of locking Senegal in after these set-piece situations and clearly showed their character. However, when we talk about the mid-block, certain problems became evident. First of all, when pressing in a 4-1-4-1 shape, the first line of pressure is always numerically inferior against two center backs. This was very clear. When Morocco's lone striker stepped out to press, the Senegal center back simply passed the ball to the other center back. Then a Moroccan central midfielder sprinted out to press the ball carrier, while the striker dropped into the central midfield zone. As a result, Morocco were essentially just running, covering unnecessary distances without creating any real pressure. Yes, they prevented Senegal from progressing the ball quickly, but this approach did not help them regain possession at all. Even so, Senegal did not consistently find effective solutions to progress the ball. Ideally, the central striker should initiate the press, while one of the central midfielders steps up to press the second center back. Despite this, Senegal still struggled in their attacking buildup. Early in the match, a central midfielder dropped into the defensive line, positioning himself between the left center back and the left fullback, trying to circulate the ball from there. Another very important detail to note was the attempt by Senegal's right back to push higher up the pitch. If there is no pressure, why not step higher? Morocco exploited this moment well. As soon as the right back moved up, Morocco's left winger could press the center back while simultaneously blocking the passing lane to the fullback. As a result, the center back was left with no viable options. This became Morocco's main pressing trigger. As soon as the right back stepped higher, the left winger would block the passing lane to him. At that point, the opposite winger and the central striker would join in to close down the back three Senegal players left behind. However, even though this looked effective on paper and worked well on the tactical board, Senegal often bypassed it with a simple long ball forward. Between the lines, Senegal's players were able to secure the ball and launch counterattacks. These frequent attempts on the right flank, with the right back pushing higher, did help Morocco improve their pressing. After some time, we began to see adjustments in the structures. Senegal started to make changes. The right back moved inside and higher, while the right winger dropped into the right back position. This way, Senegal still maintained width as a passing option, and the right winger could comfortably receive the ball in that area. Later in the game, Senegal's right back positioned himself very close to Morocco's left winger, drawing his full attention. Because of this, the Moroccan player, who often initiated the press, stayed static and did not step out aggressively. As a result, there was no pressure on the ball carrier, who could then pass into central midfield, as we see in this episode, to the defensive midfielder. This highlighted another issue for Morocco. Their players often failed to close space quickly enough and compensate defensively. Senegal also tried to overload the central areas, with many players positioning themselves between the lines, as shown in this situation. Finally, Senegal began to push their left back much higher up the pitch. The left winger moved inside, operating more centrally, and since Sadio Mané is a player with phenomenal technique, he could easily play one-touch passes back to his defender and continue the attack. These movements became more frequent. The left back pushed higher, Sadio Mané drifted inside, and Senegal increasingly progressed through this flank. Mané often tried to compete for aerial balls, bringing them down or laying them off. Senegal used various methods to find Sadio Mané between the lines. When we talk about Senegal's defensive phase, it is important to highlight how well the left winger, Sadio Mané, worked defensively. We can see how deeply he dropped into the defensive line and how actively he supported his teammate on that flank. The right winger, on the other hand, was not always as disciplined. Because of this, Morocco were able to create several 1v1 situations. We can clearly see moments where the right winger does not even attempt to track back or provide cover. As a result, in the first half, many dangerous moments came from that side. There were numerous crosses, cutbacks, and deliveries into the box from that flank. But the most interesting part of the match came in the second half, especially in the closing stages. Let's talk about the controversial decisions in the key moments. The 92nd minute. Senegal's goal is disallowed due to an attacking foul. Let's break it down. There was indeed contact on Achraf Hakimi. I wouldn't say it was a very strong contact, but the referee clearly decided that a goal scored in the closing stages of the match had to be absolutely clean. I think that in other leagues this goal would have been allowed, which is why this was the referee's first controversial decision. However, just 2 minutes later, we see another controversial moment. A corner kick for Morocco. Morocco take the corner, and we focus closely on the duel between Diouf and Brahim Díaz. First of all, we see that Senegal are defending with 4 players in a zonal setup inside the goalkeeper's box. The cross is delivered into the 6-yard box, and many players attack the near post. As a result, there is a zone of about 3 to 4 meters, a highly dangerous area, where no Senegal player is positioned. This is exactly the space where Brahim Díaz can potentially be first to the ball. If we go back to the initial positioning, Diouf already sees that Brahim Díaz is in front of him. From the start, he loses positional advantage. He essentially gives up that space. To reach the ball first, Diouf would have to go around him, while Brahim Díaz uses his body well to shield the ball. Diouf has to make contact, and objectively, he pulls him back. Yes, Brahim Díaz exaggerates the contact to make the fall look more dramatic. But to be fair, if Diouf does not grab him, Brahim Díaz is very likely the first to reach the ball, which would result in a clear shooting opportunity. However, considering that the tournament is being held in Morocco, that this happens in the final minutes of the match, and that the foul itself is not completely obvious, especially after Senegal's disallowed goal 2 minutes earlier, this decision becomes extremely controversial. After the penalty was awarded, complete chaos broke out on the pitch. The teams left the pitch and then returned. This entire penalty procedure dragged on for around 10 to 15 minutes. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this was partly a form of mind games. Even after both teams were back on the field, Brahim Díaz was disrupted twice and not allowed to take the penalty immediately. Just imagine the psychological pressure on him. For 15 minutes, you're standing there, not seeing the opponent, already visualizing victory in the final seconds of the match. You start anticipating the win, maybe even thinking about a technical victory. Then the opponent comes back, and suddenly you have to take the penalty, the most important penalty of your life. You get stopped twice, your emotional state is completely thrown off, and then you are asked to take the penalty again. At that moment, it was clear that Brahim Díaz was afraid to strike the ball decisively into the corner. He was hesitant. In that atmosphere, he was even afraid of missing the target. That's why he chose a very poor Panenka-style attempt. It was obvious that he just wanted everything to be over as quickly as possible. But the most important part of a Panenka is the final 2 steps. Brahim Díaz completely fails those 2 steps. Instead of waiting for the pause and reading the goalkeeper, he rushes the shot, trying to finish as fast as possible. The goalkeeper hasn't gone to ground yet. He is still on his feet and clearly sees that Brahim Díaz is not going to strike the ball with power. The goalkeeper reads it, stays upright, and comfortably catches the ball in the center of the goal. That's it. The penalty is saved and the match goes into extra time. And when we break down the winning goal, once again, we have to highlight Sadio Mané. The Moroccan player is about to receive the ball, and Mané drops deeper to help on the flank, exactly as we discussed earlier. Throughout the first half, he did an enormous amount of defensive work. At this moment, Mané notices that the Moroccan player is about to receive the ball with his back to him. This is a perfect pressing opportunity, and we're talking about the 93rd minute of extra time, a moment where you have to switch on, sprint at full speed, and commit to the press. And that's exactly what Mané does. The Moroccan player believes he has space and no immediate pressure, which is why his first touch is very open, looking to scan for options. He turns and suddenly sees Mané charging at him at full speed. Mané wins the ball cleanly and immediately initiates the decisive counterattack for Senegal. He plays a clever backheel pass to speed up the transition and switch the direction of the attack. From there, Achraf Hakimi deserves credit for his defensive effort. He tracks back and tries to intervene, but he simply cannot stop this Senegalese powerhouse. Look at this moment. Hakimi attempts to win the ball, but the Senegal player shields it brilliantly with his body, holds off the challenge, strikes from the edge of the penalty area, and scores the winning goal for Senegal. This was an absolutely phenomenal match. From an emotional standpoint, for a neutral fan, it was incredible to watch, and I genuinely believe this match deserves a place in football history. Leave a like, write your comments. Did you enjoy this match and this analysis? What's your opinion on the controversial decisions? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for even more football tactical and analytical content.